Good evening and welcome to Democratic Television, a program where we discuss current issues that connect with the democratic values. My name is Doug Veum and I'll be your host this evening. Over the past 8 months following the November election results, we have seen a significant increase in the number of people involved in direct political action that I have not seen or experienced since the direct actions in support of civil rights or the opposition to the USA's involvement in the Vietnam War. Tonight, my guests exemplify that increased attention as we will examine what motivated them to action and what issues are most important to them to bring attention to through the direct political action. I have with me the leadership of a newly formed group they call the Knox County Democratic Party Progressive Action Committee, Allie Cohn and Michael Davis. Allie describes herself as a slacktivist turned activist, which we'll ask her to define, who moved here just a year ago from Florida because her husband took a job at the University of Tennessee. How many times do we hear that? I will ask Allie to tell us why she moved from being a slacktivist to an activist and what that means for her in a couple of minutes. Michael is a native of Tennessee, grew up at a dairy farm near Benton, attended UT where he graduated with a degree in psychology. Prior to studying the law and now works for a local law firm. We'll let him explain to us as well why he became an activist and what it means for him as well. Allie and Michael, I welcome you to Democratic TV and ask you to provide a little more background for our audience and to answer why and how you became politically active and what political activism means for you. Allie, let's start.
Thank you, Doug. Well, I should probably start with the slacktivist turned activist. And really, when I think of slacktivism, I think of many years ago baking cookies for John Kerry's campaign and dropping them off at the volunteer center. And going to rallies and, maybe making a few phone calls. And when I think of what that sort of looks like when it translates into activism is, being active also means sustaining. So it's really easy to show up at a rally. It's really easy to make a sign and feel really good about what you're doing in that moment. But a lot of the things, especially now, that we are having to have an action around also need sustained involvement. So to me, an activist is somebody who continues to show up, who gets involved, and the work isn't always fun. And it takes time and it takes commitment. So that to me is the biggest difference.
Okay. Michael?
Yeah, thanks again for having us, Doug. But I've never really thought of myself as a political activist, I guess. Maybe the only time that I've really considered myself is in talking about answering this question right now. But I think it's true that I guess I am now. But how I got there was thinking about how to solve problems as I saw them and how to get involved and in a meaningful sort of way. Just like Allie was saying, it's great to go to a rally or to participate in something that is a show of support for other people that think and feel the same way that you do. But it's a lot more to be able to be out there trying to turn the gear that will actually affect the change that you want to see happen. That's why I went to, after graduating college, I wanted to be involved in social work. And I took the jobs that a person can do with a bachelor's degree in psychology, but it definitely was what I was looking for. It was on the grassroots. I was helping people directly. A lot of people with severe mental illnesses and suffering issues of substance abuse and homelessness, and that's where I saw, I guess, one of my real experiences about where you get educated on what the problems are, and that's kind of what inspired me to go to law school. So that's kind of it's activism almost within the mainstream, but sometimes you got to be on the inside to change some things.
But for both of you, your activism results in part, at least, or is supported by the understanding that you need the government as a whole to help solve the problems that you're dealing with. I think that makes some sense in progressive circles as well. I mean, I think you're not trying to solve the problem yourself or go to some private group, but rather you're trying to solve the problem for the society as a whole using the only common institution we have.
Correct.
Which is our government. Yeah, exactly. Well, let's take a look at the name of your group, because I think that tells us something in there. It's your progressive action. So we've started a little bit on progressiveness. We talked about it earlier before the show. How do you define it? What is being progressive for you? Besides active, I mean, and we'll talk about that in a minute too, because that is hard work, and I agree with you on that. Yeah.
Well, I would like to read the mission statement for the Progressive Action Committee, because I think before we have this conversation, it's important for everyone to hear the statement. The Progressive Action Committee amplifies the progressive voice within the Knox County Democratic Party, serves as a bridge between the Knox County Democratic Party and other progressive groups and individuals, and organizes and unites with progressive allies for action. So I know there's a lot of progressive and action in there, but we deliberated for a long time about the name of our group, and I think that the message we ultimately want to convey is that we are a group dedicated to action that's moving forward, which is the progressive movement, that angle of the progressive word.
So what would what actions would you do? One of the things you said is you're a kind of a bridge, and I understand that. I mean, one of the problems that we have as a party is that we've got a mission that's pretty electoral, and yet there's an interest in what are the issues that we support. Why do you vote, and things like that. So that's important. And the issue-oriented groups tend to be outside the party. I understand that. So you try to work with other groups outside that needs sustaining, probably from a political point of view, that there is some action involved, and there's a role that government plays in what they're looking for.
Correct.
Yeah. So what for example, do you guys meet as a group?
Yes, we have monthly meetings. Our next one is the third Saturday in the next month, August. So, and those are open to anyone, and that's part of the practical approach that we take to getting all groups, whether issue focused or electoral focused, to come and cooperate with us. We don't require that anybody that comes to our meetings that wants to participate with us and can cooperate with us on our actions to be identified as Democrat. If they
no
see,
card carrying,
not necessary. Now, Allie and I are, as officers of the committee. The committee is the Progressive Action Committee is a committee of the Democratic Party. But that's the point, is to be able to reach out to those other groups, welcome them in, have a place for them to access and cooperate with the work that we're doing. It's much more about the focus is really on the action part of the name.
How would our audience connect to you? How would they find you? And where would they look, and how would they know when your meetings are, et cetera?
We have an email set up. It's kcdpprogressives@gmail.com. We have a mailing list, so if you email and you'd like to be on our weekly email list, we can add you to it through that email. Because we are a committee of the party, we don't have our own website, but under the new website reorganization, we will have a tab or something or a way to, but we meet, like Michael said, every third Saturday at the KCDP headquarters at 311 Morgan Street at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, all right. So there's a tangible place to go, because I know that there are people who are looking for feeling connected, and then also understanding what to do. One of the things that I hear people say is, okay, what do I do? I'm unhappy with the results of the election, or I'm unhappy with whatever's going on, the debates on the health care issue, but how do I respond to that? How do I affect that? And I will tell you that that's really frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating for me because I don't know how to help them, and frustrating for them because they're looking to me and say, why don't you help me, kind of thing. So you guys can do that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think again with the action focus, it's easy to go to something and feel good about what you did, but the next question to ask is, what did it change after that? Right. And it's always important to change your own thoughts. We all start with ourselves, I believe, in political action of any sort. You have to have an idea of what it is that you want to see. Right. But then picking out the best way to go about effecting that change in the real world, that's a different story. Right. And that's what we're very interested, I think, in this group, and the people that are in the leadership of this group have been talking about doing, is how to get people to focus on what is going to again, turn that gear that will get some change to happen.
So what are some of the issues that are on the front burner at the moment? What are the things that people are coming to you for, and what are the things that you're kind of directing the organization to be involved in?
So first, when we first were meeting, we would have somebody from a group come and present at the end of our meeting. We have an agenda. It's pretty similar at every meeting. We talk about legislature, we have working groups, but we wanted to make sure that every meeting had some kind of action. So for example, we did a letter writing campaign for healthcare. You know, that was one of the things. So if you came to the meeting, the last 20 minutes, you got to write a postcard to your representative, you know,
very good,
telling about how you felt. So that there's always an action incorporated into, we try to have an action always incorporated into our meeting. The part of it too is it's not so much about other people coming to us as it is about us showing up for these groups.
Right.
So one of the things that the Progressive Action Committee did was we generated a resolution opposing the 287G application, which effectively turns the Sheriff's Department into ICE agents.
Right.
And we came out with a very strong statement, brought it to the Board of Governors, and KCDP adopted the resolution. We had some help writing it with a member from McKinn. And then we put it out there. And what happened was the application was signed. So what was great about that relationship is, you know, when it was time to go to the sheriff's office to set up a meeting to talk to the sheriff, Ken said, "Hey, can you help us with this?"
Sure.
You know, they're a nonpartisan group,
right,
you know, but we had already come out declaring opposition to it.
Right.
So it was an easy, you know, sort of message for us.
And you're plugged in enough so that you can do something politically for them as well as expose or inform the community, basically, on what this is.
Sure. I mean, I think it's really important to understand that the groups that are outside of the Democratic Party, progressive groups, you know, social groups, that, you know, it's not about us coming and saving them. It's really about how can we support? How can we reach out, you know, if there's a need?
Right.
We have people who are looking for an action. How can we support?
And you help support that action.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really interesting. By the way, Ken is going to be, we're preparing a program right now like this one for Ken. We'll air in a couple of weeks, I believe. We'll have it put together. But yeah, that would be a big issue, I think, and we're trying to support that. One of the things we do at Democratic TV is we try to provide information to the community that can be used, that's not just for the for tonight's show, but for something that you can take and show to other people. That's why we're doing this, and this becomes a YouTube video that you can take somewhere else and say, this is what we're doing, and this is we're doing it. But it appears to me, from what you're saying then, is that you're a resource. You're a resource for progressive groups who are looking for ways to implement or to affect policy change, not just talk about them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
You know. I don't know if you remember. Do you guys remember the George Bush years? The early. You do.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you do.
Quite well.
Why
do you think we're so scared about what happened?
Yeah, because certainly by the end of the George Bush era, there was a clamoring for how do we fix this? What do we do? How do we respond to this? We're not liking what's going on. What do we do? But during the Obama years, that really dropped away. I mean, it just seemed like everything was going okay, so things didn't get perpetuated. And so you're doing that. Okay, so besides meeting and having a website, or not a website, a Facebook page do you have?
It's in development.
Okay, so you don't have a Facebook page yet, but what's the email address that you use again?
KCDPprogressives@gmail.com.
Okay, that's pretty simple. Okay. And you send email blasts out so people know when you're meeting. All right.
Correct.
And they can also then come to you and say, look, we're interested in this issue. Can you help us?
Right, and so one of the most important pieces of the Progressive Action Committee is we are a hyper-local group. So we're Knoxville. The TNDP has a rapid response for Tennessee. We're kind of the Knoxville rapid response. So in our email, the things that go out are our agendas and things for the next meeting, but also any event that's a local event that fits into our mission statement. We're going to support that and get the news out there, information for people so that they can also go.
Well, I have friends of mine who are concerned about the health care bill and how it's being changed, and want to make sure that they're in touch with both Congressman Duncan and the two senators on a frequent basis, and that when they call, they're calling as they're informed and that they know what it is. Well, the bill is very hard to figure out what it is because it changes, and in fact we don't know what it is. But is that something then that, for example, if I could say, call the Progressive Action Committee and find out what the current status of that bill is that something that you could respond to them?
Well, I'm going to just tell you that if somebody called me and asked me, I most likely would direct them to Gloria Johnson.
Gloria Johnson, okay.
Sorry, Gloria.
All right, yeah.
But because she's been so active and has been so instrumental, I feel like, what we're trying to do is, everybody wants to get involved with something, and that's great, but we want to make sure that we're using our resources effectively. So if there's a group or a person who's already all over an issue or within an organization who's on top of it, that means that we can use our people to support, but also go maybe to an issue where there isn't as much knowledge base around it.
Okay, when you talk about our people, is there something you want to reveal as to how many there are? I mean, what kind of how big are your resources? I know Gloria is one.
Well, I would say the PAC email goes out to about 150 people.
Okay, so that's already getting a pretty good following. Yeah. Do the district reps in the KCDP support this by pushing your email address and things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay,
right. Within the party itself, we've been making some rounds to the individual district meetings and to talk about what we do and explain a little more in detail so that we can kind of grow our membership that way. Well, just last night we were at the 5th district meeting. I think we're going to the 7th district on Monday. I'm the 2nd district representative myself, so I get to do free plugs every month. But when the PAC started out, there were a lot of people. It was that first wave after the election of people that wanted to get involved. And so, of course, like any other group, we've seen a little bit of attrition, but we've still got a lot of very dedicated people that stick around. And and those are our core group, people on our steering team and people that are very involved in what our working groups are. And the county party has definitely recognized that. I think they appreciate what we're doing. They're extremely supportive, and to be clear, it's not that the party didn't have any, it wasn't progressive already. It's just they saw the need to have this committee to focus on those issue-based actions. Again, it's really the focus is on the action, but also to unite people, other groups, and in the county under the progressive values and that represent what we're trying to do. So,
how is the political community that you've been touched received you? Is there a certain amount of caution, or is there just open arms, or is it what's going on here? I mean, what would you describe the reaction as?
Well, I'm going to back you up for just a minute.
Okay, that's fine.
Before we get to the outside community.
Okay.
When the Progressive Action Committee started, before it had a name, before it was an official committee of the Knox County Democratic Party, there was a meeting right after the election. And there were definitely some residual feelings within Democrats attending the Progressive Action Committee regarding the primary. And so when we talk about the climate outside of and how we're received outside of the Progressive, we've kind of had to do some work within the Progressive Action Committee. One of our original working groups was a reflection on the election working group. And we're still working through that. There are still some very intense emotions around the primary. What to do with those emotions? How do we talk about it? What's the best solution for discourse? You know, there's a national level of discourse around it, and then there's also a local conversation around, you know, party and things like that. So I think that, you know, we have to sort of resolve that before we can go out, because I think that that's kind of the issue that we've talked about is when we go to these progressive groups, you know, that, well, the Democratic Party, you know, how progressive are they? And you get into this conversation. So I feel like internally we're having to have these difficult conversations that are really important.
Yeah, I think that's true. In fact, that's one of the problems of the party is that we're still, not just in Knox County, but more at the national level, just really sorting through who are we and what, you know, who do we support. We talked about it before the show tonight about, you know, where does labor fit with us, and, you know, things like that. So that's an issue. I understand that, Michael.
And I'll to echo what Allie's talking about there. It has been kind of a mixed bag at times about what people's initial reception to us is. But my answer to that is whether, no matter what you think of the Democratic Party at this time, what you think, what your idea of progressivism is, come and give an honest look at what the PAC is doing and what we're about and what the Knox County Democratic Party is about. I think that we are embodying a lot of progressive ideals. We've got a brand new executive board, and this is getting into some of the structure of the current party. But I think that they're looking at those sort of ideas, and it's an all-female exec board that we have right now, of which Allie here is the secretary. Our chair,
I know the board.
Our chair is under 30 years old. So we've got
a lot under 30 years old.
We've got I can't say that. So we've got, I think, tremendous potential for anybody that believes in making progress. And if you think that the Democratic Party needs to go in any new directions, come see what the Knox County Democratic Party is doing, and maybe you'll find that we are already moving in that direction. And if you have something to contribute, if you have a talent or, you know, something that you want to see done, my suggestion is to come participate. And that's what we're there to do, especially in the PAC. Don't stay on the sidelines pointing out all the problems that have existed historically with. And you can do that with any political party. And the Democratic Party is no different. But if you really want to have the most effect right now, if you've got ideas, this is the time to do it. When we're charting some new territory here and in a little bit of a transition, this is the time to start getting involved.
Now, are you involved at all in Indivisible or in Merge or the Democratic Socialists? Do you have interfaces with them at all, or yes or no? Or?
I'm on the executive committee for the Democratic Socialists America Knoxville chapter.
All right.
I've been to Emerge fundraisers. I mean, I not as a PAC person, but there are people. I mean, I think there should be that sort of reciprocal relationship amongst people who have these values and these visions for moving forward, and those groups have, you know, overlap.
I don't know if you've thought about this, but what I'm interpreting is you're kind of a clearinghouse almost for some of these issues. In other words, you're a place where the issues can become debated, discussed, and kind of sorted through. Maybe easier than they can in the groups that have very specific goals. For example, isn't Emerge's main goal is to get people prepared to run for office, primarily women to run for office?
Women to run for office.
Okay, so it's specific. It's not just some women. That's who their candidates are. Training them and things like that. Democratic Socialists have a different take. That's an interesting group. I like going to them when I can, because you really get challenged on some ideas, because they are thoughtful people.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, so you're. Is it fair to say that you're kind of a clearinghouse?
I think that's one of the things that we definitely do, and one of the capacities that when we, and keep in mind, it's still early days for the PAC, so one of the functions that I think we want to take on is that glue within the Knox community, or within the region, as you know, Knoxville's kind of the metropolitan and cultural center of the region, we want to be involved in that way, that we can connect people easily to aid in rapid response when we know that there's something going on, that it takes people's voices and their actions immediately to get something done.
Would you consider the vote of the Senate that's coming up this next week, if there is one, is that something rapid response would be involved in? You'd show people how to do that? No.
No, we again, it's very hyper local. So
Okay,
the national the
okay.
national issues.
Yeah.
There are already so many people who are involved sending out rapid response.
Right.
We're more about what's happening right
Okay.
here. So there is a zoning board meeting happening in
Right.
District 5. So that's in our
Okay,
newsletter and things
so
like
the
that.
Airbnb issues would be something you might.
Correct. Housing and, you
Yeah.
know, people going to the city council and county commission and
Sure.
reporting back and talking about what are they talking about in our city.
Okay. So that you'd be a clearinghouse for that kind of information.
Yes, but also providing direct action with it.
Yeah,
Our
okay,
members
right.
are going to be.
They'll go to the committee. They'll
Yes.
go to the council and say, "This is what we believe. This is what we'd
Correct.
like to think
Yes.
about." Okay. Are you going to be involved in candidates? Do you think at all at any level, or no? Not a candidate.
The KCDP has a candidate committee already.
Yeah, I know that. I'm on that committee, so yeah.
So
But I
you
mean,
know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But as far as getting behind candidates, as I mean, right now we have the city council races and they're
Right.
nonpartisan.
Right.
But I think anybody individually is
Right,
welcome to
right,
get involved. But as a PAC, we haven't crossed
Right.
that bridge because we haven't been in that
Right.
situation.
Of course,
yet.
we're right now in primaries. Choosing candidates in the primary tends to be divisive. And not that it's just made that way. I mean, there's no reason not to be that way. On the other hand, if you want an organization that bridges all those divides, you want to probably not take too strong a position.
Yeah, we're
for
not
anyone, yeah.
getting involved in the
Yeah,
candidates.
Exactly. Just like on a couple issues, do you have a position as a group on the even though it's not a local issue, the things that are going on in the Congress, and you don't provide any information about them, or you could, if you will, I mean, if they ask?
Well, we do. In every meeting, Michael does a legislative update.
Oh, you do?
So
Okay.
he reads all the bills
Right.
that are about to go in or that passed or anything that is pertinent,
Right.
you know, to us locally.
Now, you know that tomorrow, Saturday the 22nd, the Black Caucus is going to be here with a town hall meeting.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, that would be something you'd send people to, or at least notify people about.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty important, I think. I think we're pretty lucky to have that group coming here at the Beck Center.
Absolutely.
So, in fact, we're going to, hopefully DTV will be able to get some interviews that we can blend into a program in a couple weeks or so. Okay, we're coming pretty close to the end of our time. An issue that it may have national relevance, but I think it's very local, is this issue, this voter fraud committee that the president has appointed. Do you study that at all? Are you concerned about that? Do you have some response to that? I mean, that thing is awful.
We haven't talked about it as a committee or as a group yet.
Mainly just because it's so new.
Yeah, okay, right.
We haven't met
Yeah,
since
okay.
that committee came together
Right.
on a national level.
Okay. Well, my advice to you is I think that's one I pay pretty close attention to at the national level, because that has really ramifications at the local level as well. You know,
True.
So, all right. Well, we're about to we kind of want to wrap this thing up. I would first say thanks for coming aboard.
Thank you.
And I hope that you'll use the YouTube video of this to sell yourselves to other people, because I'm going to use this for that reason. And I also want to remind the audience, our audience, that there's the event at Beck tomorrow. There's an event, there's a reception for legislators at 6 o'clock at the Knoxville Botanical Gardens. And we'll be back on the air next week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.